Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out big news. With us today, happy to have him again, because last time you saw him was from the floor of the PDAC. It's Richard Murphy, CEO of Manitou Gold, trades in Canada under MTU, for friends in the US under MNTUF. For those new to the story, because you might have seen this big headline today about nickel, and we're going to talk about that in a second. The company is known for its control, 100% control of the Goudreau Project in Northern Ontario, where they're accelerating exploration in search of Canada's next gold discovery and maybe even a mine. Now, a lot of companies will say that, they'll talk the talk, but Manitou is walking the walk. First of all, they're not doing it alone. They're supported by two majors, Alamos Gold, a $4 billion producer, and O3 Mining, which is part of the Cisco group. Together, they control just under 30% of the company. They own, I should say. And they're assisting Manitou both on the balance sheet and the boardroom, because the chief operating officer of Alamos is a director, and the CFO of O3 is a director as well. And they participate in multiple financings. Why are they doing that? The area where Goudreau is right now hosts two multi-million ounce gold deposits from both Alamos and Argonaut Gold. The Goudreau project has two zones separated through faulting that the company believes may be part of an original single bigger zone. And it looks like the theory is being tested right, because they made a high-grade discovery in the fall of 2021, confirming the exploration theory, all sorts of other things going on to confirm that. And on the balance sheet, they sold their Dryden property for $7 million in cash and shares to Dryden Gold, which is controlled, the private company about to go public, controlled by a management team that sold their last company for $300 million. But we're talking about today, because you're going to say, where's nickel come in? Here's the headline. Manitou Gold identifies nickel iron alloy in the drill core, outlines 60-kilometer structural trend, highlighting large tonnage nickel and gold potential. That's a mouthful. Richard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much, George. It's my pleasure.
Hey, before we get into the nickel side, I still want to talk about the gold side, and particularly Northern Ontario newspapers reported on the air of the Goudreau project becoming a juggernaut for gold production. Why are they saying that? How good is that for Manitou?
Well, it's very good. I mean, there's three companies working in this eastern part of it, what's called the Michipicoten Greenstone Belt. It covers a total area of almost 500 square kilometers. There's a past producing mine on the far east end. That's Barrick Gold's Ranabi mine, produced well over 1 million ounces of gold up until the early 1990s. There's our largest, we're by some distance the largest landowner in this gold belt, re-emerging gold belt. And on our western flank, we've got Alamos Gold with the Island Gold Mine. That's their crown jewel operation. And right adjacent to Alamos is Argonaut Gold, where they're developing the Magino open pit mine. Those two, Argonaut and Alamos, on our western flank and our immediate neighbors, together they have between them about 10 million ounces gold in resources and reserves. One mine's operating. Actually, Alamos is in the process of building out their third phase of a mine expansion. A couple of years from now, they will have doubled their production at Island Gold. They're spending an awful lot of money, serious investment, sinking a shaft. It's going to allow them to ramp up their production considerably. And about this time next year, we should be looking at first gold being poured at the adjacent Argonaut Magino operation. So 10 million ounces on our western border, another 1 million plus ounces Barrick owns in the Ranabi mine on our eastern border. So very strategically situated. Again, we've just expanded that land position to 366 square kilometers. So we really, between these mid-tier / major producers, we're the only other player in this part of the camp.
So to say you're an elephant country would be an understatement. On top of that, you've got two of these majors or two majors sitting on your board and sitting as big shareholders. So despite what's going on in the world, because I love to, I always like to bring that up, because this is where the real companies separate themselves. Are you even more confident today in your prospects up there?
Absolutely. So more confident. Again, if you think of, like the biggest gold mining companies in the world, like Barrick, they're looking for what they call tier one operation opportunities. This is what they look for, right from the earliest conceptual planning and exploration, the deals they do. They want the properties where they can go out and maybe put together like 10 million or more ounces of gold. That's exactly what exists on the western border of our property. 10 million ounces of gold already, and that's increasing. I mean, you see the amount of increase in reserves and resources that Alamos has posted over the last couple of years. I mean, I think 10 million is just a start. Collectively, those two companies, they could be looking at double that. So this is through any lens. This is tier one gold mining territory. Definitely with our 366 square kilometer package, we have room for multiple multi-million ounce elephant-sized deposits.
Now, devil's advocate for new people who are watching, because current shareholders who watched the last interview we did from the floor of the PDC know the answer to this, but I think it's important because the way you're talking, I mean, it all adds up to some great fundamentals. I mean, just incredible fundamentals. And then you get someone new look at a stock chart and say, but why that big drop in May? What happened? And if you wouldn't mind, give us that 60-second overview, because that had nothing to do with Manitou. It was just a big group of investors that you guys had who were being literally squeezed out by the tech drop in the US, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We had a group of investors that owned just north of 20 million shares. And I think, through no fault of ours or theirs per se, they were in a situation where they had to liquidate. They sold all of that 20 plus million shares in a period, basically beginning of April through the middle of May. And if you recall, that timing coincides, by the middle of May, there was a general market downturn that just exacerbated the problem.
Oh, yeah.
So we saw our share price and related market capitalization basically cut in half. And only very recently, today, with the news we talked about, with this additional work we've done on this nickel intersection we have, it started to rebound a little bit and rebuild some of that value that we saw quickly eroded in April and May.
And again, through no fault of Manitou and no fault of the investors, but if new people should remember that May saw the Dow down 8 weeks in a row, which hadn't happened in 100 years. So there were big investors out there, not just these ones, but on Wall Street, who were being called on margin or had to liquidate other things in order to kind of survive, and that didn't have anything to do with Manitou. I just want to make sure we got it out there. So now that that's passed and eliminate that from impossible questions, you've kept the market pretty well apprised. I love the job you've done of your property consolidation, your gold exploration, and then the press release came a few weeks ago during PDAC regarding a drill intersection of nickel, which came as a big surprise, kind of came out of nowhere. Can you comment on that? How big of a surprise of it, and how big of a nice surprise is it?
Well, it's a large surprise, very nice. And without getting too technical, I should note, in the environment where we're looking for gold, we're looking for what is termed orogenic gold deposits. That's what you see mined in Kirkland Lake, Timmins, Red Lake. These are, they're not placers. These are lode gold, quartz vein hosted, basically vein systems. They tend to have incredible depth potential. They can go literally for kilometers in depth extent, hundreds of meters along strike. So these orogenic gold systems can occur in a similar setting to ultramafic intrusive rocks. In other words, these deep-seated crustal scale faults that are good for forming gold deposits also allow ultramafic rocks to come right up from the mantle up to the upper crust at surface now, and they can coexist quite commonly in gold terrain. So in the course of our targeting through our winter drill program, we knew, these ultramafic intrusions, they stick out very prominently with magnetic geophysical survey, which we've done extensively over our entire property. And we knew one of the holes, we had a gold target on the margin of one of these ultramafic intrusions. So we set up the drill within that ultramafic intrusion, drilled towards its margin to get out of it and test for gold. We didn't see a whole lot of gold. We saw the right structure. We saw alteration, not a lot of gold numbers in that particular hole. But as we were analyzing the core and describing in detail, we noticed some metallic, unknown metallic minerals in that core. And as a result of seeing that, we decided to test, we did a multi-element assay, tested for a broad spectrum of metals and other elements. And lo and behold, we had that 48 meters running 0.25% nickel, 100 ppm cobalt along with it. So we knew, I mean, as sort of geoscientists, we know ultramafic rocks can host nickel. There can be an affinity there. So the thing we didn't know when we came up with that news is, how did the nickel occur? Was it in these tiny metallic minerals we could see with a hand lens, or that's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario in these ultramafic rocks is the nickel metal can be tied up in silicate minerals, in which case it would be totally unrecoverable. But the news we put out today, we've done a lot of microscopic analysis on this, and we see that these metallic minerals are, in fact, we've got a positive identification. We know exactly what it is. It's a mineral called awaruite, and it's an alloy of nickel and iron. It's a very high grade nickel mineral. The content of this alloy is between 66 and 75% pure nickel.
Well, okay, so that sounds unbelievable. Is that unbelievable sounds, or is that for awaruite, or in this setting, is that par for the course? Give us some context on that, if you don't mind.
No, it's not par for the course. There are some analogs out there. Ultramafic intrusive rocks are not rare, but to get what is rare, and incredibly rare actually, is to get this nickel alloys. And the way these things are created, the nickel alloy mineral systems within these ultramafic rocks, is a very specific type of alteration. So after these rocks are in place, you have regional metamorphism, and it alters that whole intrusive body through a process called serpentinization. It's just a technical term to mean it's breaking down and changing the silicate minerals into a different set of minerals. And in that change, there's a chemical change where it liberates that nickel into these metal alloys. So again, ultramafic intrusive rocks are very common, but to find the right setting that has undergone this pervasive and thorough serpentinization to liberate the nickel out of it, and not too much alteration, just right. It's sort of like a Goldilocks thing. If it's just right, you can actually preserve these nickel metal alloys. And that's what we found. The interesting thing, we have a single drill hole.
Have you got the Goldilocks situation, or is that still to be determined?
We've got the Goldilocks. The presence of this awaruite proves that we've got the Goldilocks situation. It's in one drill hole right now. And as that long headline you read confirms, we've got a total linear continuity of 60 kilometers of these ultramafic bodies. So there's room for us to literally put, many hundreds of drill holes into this. There are analogs out there. In Ontario, there's a company working away north of Timmins called Canada Nickel Company.
They've had some success.
Yeah, they've had some success. There's another deposit in Quebec called the Dumont deposit, and there's another in Western Canada. All the three companies that own these things enjoy, multiple hundreds of millions of market cap based on very similar setting. So, I mean, these guys are all more advanced. They've drilled hundreds of holes. They have resources. We've, drilled one hole through this rock, found this interesting metallic mineral. So very early days, we don't have a resource yet, but at the same time, I mean, our current market capitalization is about 12 million as compared to 200 million plus with some of these companies that have been working on very similar sets of nickel hosting rocks for the past couple of years.
So what does this mean to you guys for how does this change your plan, if at all? Do you just continue with the plan, but now you're also looking for you're keeping your eye out for the nickel, or does it change the exploration strategy?
Our primary strategy is finding, elephant-sized gold deposits on our land portfolio here. Our Goudreau project, we consolidated it. All the work we've done is towards, outlining, making that discovery and outlining a multi-million ounce gold deposit. That being said, well, that is unchanged. If we have an opportunity to create shareholder value by drilling more holes and putting some size parameters and getting a real sense of what the grade potential of these nickel deposits is, I think it behooves us to go ahead and pursue that opportunity on behalf of all of our shareholders.
And I guess you make that decision at what point? As you keep exploring for the elephant gold, or do you actually do some new work just strictly to see where you can continue on the nickel side?
So we've got crews in the field right now. They're doing both. They're fine tuning some of our gold targets that we've already established, and they're also visiting some sites where we know these ultramafics exist, again from the geophysical surveys we've done, in an effort to, these rocks, they tend to be softer than the hard things like, say, a granite or something. They don't stick out of the ground all that much, but there's some places where we have hilltops and stuff, and they coincide with these ultramafics. So we're literally taking samples and prospecting these things, and I look forward to bringing additional news out of more nickel assays on separate ultramafic intrusions within that property portfolio that we own.
And I like the fact that you're remaining really level-headed about this, whereas other companies, maybe literally screaming off the rooftops. But I do have to kind of point to the headline, which you're saying, outlines, large tonnage nickel and gold potential. So you're obviously feeling really good about the nickel side, so much so that you put it right in a pretty strong headline like that. So what can you elaborate on in terms of, why you guys feel that way to put it right in the headline?
Well, I think, the fact that we've made the discovery, the discovery hole, it was drilled for gold. We found this metal alloy nickel in it. The nickel discovery has been made. We have a lot of super high ranking gold targets yet to be drilled. So our next drill program is going to be, again, gold focused. But while we have the drill in there testing some of our gold targets, I think we're definitely going to be going back to some of these intrusions where we're highly confident we're going to hit more nickel mineralization. And I think from an investor or shareholder's perspective, that's just prudent on our behalf.
Sure.
We like our gold targets. We've de-risked them by, a lot of ground geophysical work, geochemistry surveys, and geology, but they're still exploration targets. Whereas I think our chances of success going for additional nickel mineralization is incredibly high. For example, that discovery hole, the 14th one we drilled in our winter program, we didn't drill I said these targets, these ultramafic targets, they're magnetic. So they stick out in the magnetic survey. We didn't test the highest magnetic part of this intrusion. So literally a no-brainer of a hole is to go back where we drilled it,
right,
turn the drill around backwards and drill 180 degrees from the direction we did into the heart of the magnetics. This aurue, this nickel alloy, is a strongly magnetic mineral. So guess what? We know there's stronger magnetics behind the hole we already got it in. So I think there's a pretty darn good chance we turn that drill around and drill a hole in the opposite direction.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I suspect we're going to get a lot more of it.
I say that tongue in cheek, by the way.
Yeah. No, we're doing the groundwork. We want to get, more of these things lined up. We don't want to just go and drill one hole. We want to go and drill, a dozen holes, definitely a dozen holes, pure gold targets. And I'd like to add a dozen holes for pure nickel targets in there as well. There's some areas, again, that first nickel discovery hole, it was a gold target. We hit nickel. There's some holes we can actually get a twofer, 2-for-1, test for gold, but also go through some of these ultramafic rocks testing for nickel. That'd be quite a discovery hole, wouldn't it? From a certain meterage depth, you have a gold intersection, and further down the hole, you have a big nickel intersection. That's my idea of fun.
Well, the market's had some pretty good fun today, Richard, that's for sure. So, hope from your mouth to God's ears that you get some more fun like that in the future. We're halfway through the year. So last question, essentially we're halfway through the year, just a little beyond that. What does the rest of the year look like in terms of cadence? Ballpark, if you can ballpark for everybody, when does more exploration take place? When ballpark do you think assays start to come back? So we can kind of, map out the year.
So I said we have crews on the ground right now. They're collecting samples. They're refining the gold targets so that we're ready to go with the drill. The analyses for the nickel samples the guys are taking, they're there in the bush collecting them now. Those analysis we found with our recent history here, they were taking sort of 4 to 6 weeks. So I think, these numbers are going to start to be coming back towards the end of the field season. I suspect by the time the summer is over and people are returning to work in September, we should have some meaningful new results in hand and a pretty comprehensive story as to, where we're going to go drill the next round of holes, both for the gold. That work is largely done already, but also for the nickel. And that's the work that's really getting done on the ground right now.
All right. Well, looking forward to that. That gives all a little time to get to the beach, relax a little bit, get back in time for the end of the summer or so to find out what you guys have found. But man, it sounds like you guys are finding great stuff. You're already in elephant country. You already had discoveries. You already had all that. And now the story just keeps getting better. And, hats off to you, the team, Richard, for, despite what's going on in the world, keeping your eye on the prize and just moving this thing forward.
Well, that's what we do. If we didn't enjoy the exploration, it's, getting beat down to, a market cap of $10 million or something. That's not very fun. But at the same time, you have to be pragmatic. And, when you're beat down to the floor, you can't fall any further. All you can do is create some value and build things back up again.
And there isn't a great success story in the world that I haven't found one yet, that hasn't gone through incredible adversity. For example, Fred Smith, Federal Express, couldn't make payroll on a Friday. And if he didn't borrow the money from his friends to make payroll, he would have lost employees and no Federal Express. So, every company goes through adversity. The great ones, make it through and survive and thrive. And you're surviving, and it looks like you're on the edge of thriving right now. So can't wait to have you back at the end of the summer, my friend. Ballpark, give or take, to see what next steps are.
I look forward to that, George.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Richard Murphy, CEO of Manitou Gold, trades in Canada under the stock symbol MTU. For our friends in the US under MNTUF. For those new to the story, because you saw this nickel number, and nickel's attracting a lot of attention for all the electrical vehicle reasons, and people are looking for real projects, and you've just discovered the company. First step, get to Manitou's profile page on Agoracom, because there's a lot going on. So we've got it neatly compartmentalized and laid out for you to understand the real big picture. And then once you've got that, head over right over to the Manitou website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.